This is a video about being completely alone, which is not what I thought I was signing up for. Chasing Static looked like one of those PS1 horror games you knock out in an evening. You know the type: fog, low poly trees, some guy with a clipboard who definitely dies, credits roll, done. 2 hours, maybe 3 if you're thorough. I thought I'd play it, have a nice time, maybe make a few jokes about how the textures look like they were rendered on a PlayStation that's been through the wash. It was not a fun little horror thing. I mean, it was that, technically. There's a bunker, there's a conspiracy, there's a device that lets you hear echoes of dead people, because of course there is. There's a village where everyone vanished, like they all collectively agreed to leave and never talk about it again. There's a research facility where they did things to children, which, not like that, which is always a great sign that your evening is about to get significantly worse. Standard horror game nonsense. But that's not the bit that got to me. What got to me was the walking. Just walking. Down roads that don't go anywhere, through fields where nothing moves, past buildings that look like people left and never bothered to come back. No combat really, no chase sequences, just you and the fog and the growing suspicion that you are the only thing alive for miles. And the game never fills the silence, it just lets you exist in it, which is a mistake. Because if you've ever driven through actual rural Wales, not the nice bits, not the tourist stuff, you know exactly how wrong that feeling is. Single track roads, grass in the middle, no phone signal. The kind of place where your sat-nav gives up and you start wondering if you missed a sign that said, "Civilization ends here, best of luck." The kind of place where if your car broke down, you sort of just accept it, become part of the scenery. A skeleton in a vauxhall, slowly reclaimed by moss. And that's when it clicked. Chasing Static isn't scary because of the monsters. It's scary because it understands what it feels like to be somewhere that does not care whether you exist. So what actually is Chasing Static? It's a PS1 style horror game made by one guy. One single human being, which explains why it's 2 hours long. You walk around rural Wales with a device that picks up radio signals. The signals lead you to echoes, fragments of things that already happened, playing on loop like a closed recording. Dead people talking about dead things in dead places. You witness their conversations, piece together what went wrong, and occasionally an item spawns because you saw the right ghost memory. That's the whole game. Walk, watch dead people argue, pick up keys. There's technically combat. You can find a modified loudspeaker that functions as a gun and use it to shoot ghosts like you're a fucking Ghostbuster. 3 of them wander around the map like lost tourists who refuse to accept that Butlins is closed. If you blast all 3, you get a secret ending, but mostly, you're just walking, looking, and listening. Now you might be wondering why exactly I want to cover a game that came out 4 and a bit years ago, has just under 500 reviews on Steam, and is set in a place like Wales. Well, it's certainly a good question, I'll give you that, but to answer it, I must dox myself. So yes, indeed, I am from Wales. It's a shithole certainly, but a shithole that I feel a personal attachment to. And one of my favourite pastimes in this backwater sheep-shagging dump, I'm only this salty because of the existence of Newport, is driving, exploring the back roads that populate this country like a bad case of cancer. And I must give this place, it truly can be gorgeous. From the Brecon Beacons all the way up to Snowdonia, or whatever the fuck it's called in Welsh. I don't know, I'd do them and Hoffy come right across my tub. There is an undeniable allure to explore the unknown. And it was on one of those back roads that I got the idea of the core thesis for this video. Of the terror of being truly alone, so far away from anything resembling civilization. Of realizing that if you broke down, you'd be cooked. Whilst yes, it is true that other more remote areas of the world, Australia's outback, Canada's northern territories, could have applied to this better, I think my personal connection to this land helps sell the idea, plus the fact, it's in the game. Alongside this cool and awesome IRL B-roll I filmed. See, HMRC, the car is a valid business expense. Quick side note, I've been using ExpressVPN recently, and it's actually come in clutch more times than I expected. If you spend a lot of time online, whether that's gaming, watching videos, or just existing on the modern internet, you're probably giving away more data than you realize. Internet providers can see what sites you visit, networks can track your activity, and on public Wi-Fi, your connection isn't always secure. ExpressVPN fixes that by encrypting your internet traffic and routing it through secure servers, which helps protect your privacy and keeps your data private, even on public networks. I like ExpressVPN because it's simple. One click, it works in the background and it doesn't slow my connection down, which matters when I'm uploading, downloading footage, or just trying to watch something without buffering. It works across all your devices, including phones, PCs, consoles, and routers. and it lets you securely access content while traveling by changing your virtual location. ExpressVPN is also independently audited and uses trusted encryption standards. So it's not just marketing, it's genuinely one of the most reliable VPNs out there. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months by clicking the link in the description box below, expressvpn.com/notsaber. It's completely risk-free thanks to their 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can test it yourself and see if it fits your setup. Thanks again to ExpressVPN for supporting the channel. And now, let's get back to the game. The game starts with a funeral. Cheery stuff. Your father's funeral specifically. You are Chris Selwood, estranged from your dad for years. You left Wales as a teenager, never looked back, never called. Standard, emotionally unavailable British man behavior. Now he's dead and you're standing at his grave wondering if you're supposed to feel something. Grief? Relief? Guilt? The crushing weight of unresolved emotional baggage you've been ignoring for 2 decades because addressing it would require having a conversation, and British people would rather die. You don't feel anything in particular, you just feel wet. Someone hands you his journal, full of research notes you don't understand. You do what anyone would do. Drive into rural Wales to sort out his affairs. Middle of nowhere, night, storm rolling in. The kind of rain that throws itself at your windscreen like it's personally offended. Roads getting narrower, signal getting weaker. The sat-nav gave up 20 minutes ago. The whole situation is practically begging you to turn around. You don't turn around, because you're a horror game protagonist, and horror game protagonists are contractually obligated to make decisions that would get them sectioned in real life. You stop at a cafe, the Last Stop Cafe, which is either charmingly Welsh or deeply ominous depending on how much faith you have in road signage. There's a woman working there. Anira. She's friendly, in that slightly too friendly way people are when they haven't seen another human being in 6 hours. She offers you coffee, gives you directions, says she'll show you the way if you give her a lift, knows exactly where you're going apparently. Then the power goes out. Anira asks you to fix the fuse box because apparently that's your job now. Electrician wasn't on the career aptitude test, but here we are. You head round to the kitchen, flick some switches, get the lights on. The sink is overflowing and the entire room looks oddly domestic, but oh well, I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. You return expecting coffee and awkward small talk. Instead, Anira is pinned to the ceiling. Something with glowing eyes is holding her there. Your vision blurs, you black out. Helpful. Thanks, brain. When you wake up, you're still in the cafe. Same room, but everything's different. Dust everywhere, mold on the walls, like no one's been here for decades. Which, to be fair, is roughly how I feel after a night out in Cardiff. Anira's gone, the thing is gone. You're alone. You stumble outside. Your car's still there. After some attempts, the engine starts. Thank God. You pull out onto the road and some yobbo in a probably debadged BMW comes barreling out of nowhere. Headlights blinding, wrong side of the road, driving like they learned from a GTA speedrun. The car is now fucked. No phone signal, no passing cars, no one coming to help. So you walk into the woods like an idiot, like every horror protagonist before you. But before we get any further, please consider subscribing as we are very close to 100k and I want to get it this year. Smiley face, yes. The woods are dark, obviously, but it's a different kind of dark, the kind that feels deliberate. You notice the mushrooms, glowing, dotted around the forest floor like someone spilled a rave in the countryside. I think the mushroom's moss or something. But you follow them, because at this point you're basically a dog following treats, and they lead you to a bunker, because of course there's a bunker. Can't afford the NHS, but a secret government facility hidden in the Welsh countryside? Sure, why not? At this point, you probably believe anything. Aliens? Yeah, plausible. Tesco Express? Actually, that would be surprising. They don't usually build those in places with less than 12 humans. Inside, you find a command center, screens displaying the status of 3 locations, Site A, B, and C, all compromised. And there's a radio. A woman's voice, Helen. She sounds relieved at first, then realizes you have absolutely no idea what's going on, and the relief curdles into tired resignation. The kind of voice that says, I've explained this 17 times now and I'm going to explain it again because apparently that's my life now. She explains, an event happened, the site's collapsed. The area is unstable. If you want to leave, stabilize all 3. You ask if you can just leave, walk out the way you came. She says you can't, the thing in the woods won't let you. Others have tried. So you pick up the FDMD, the frequency displacement monitoring device. A lot of words for radio that shows you ghosts. The static leads you deeper, and then you see them after you use the, mic thing with the device. 2 figures, researchers, carrying bodies, discussing it like it's nothing. These ones needed to be dealt with, like the bodies are a minor inconvenience in an otherwise productive Tuesday. They walk through you and vanish. In their place, 2 oars. That's the thing about echoes, sometimes they leave things behind, or maybe the things were always there and you couldn't see them until you saw the echo. The game doesn't explain it, but as always, you just accept it. You take the oars, find a boat, row across the river towards Site C. Alone, in the dark, following breadcrumbs left by dead people. Site C is where it starts to feel properly wrong. First thing you see, graves. A few of them, scattered around like someone got halfway through a mass burial and went, actually, lunch break. And there's a corpse leaning against a rock, shovel next to him like he was in the middle of something and just stopped. You pick up the shovel because, obviously, what else are you gonna do with a shovel in a horror game? The man doesn't need it anymore. You dig 3 graves, 2 have nothing, just dirt and disappointment, which is basically the national experience. The third is keys. Standard procedure, find corpse, loot corpse, move on. Video games have prepared you for this specific moral flexibility. There's a crater in the center of the site, a big one. The kind that says something came down here and it wasn't gentle. Around the crater, tents, equipment, research stations, all abandoned in a hurry. And corpses, more corpses than you'd expect from a research site, which raises questions about the hiring process. You explore with the FDMD. Echoes quite populous here. Researchers talking about containment, and one name keeps coming up. Isaac. You piece it together through the echoes. Isaac was a researcher, normal at first, tired, stressed, functional. Your standard, overworked government employee. Then he started slipping, talking to himself, staring at nothing. Other researchers whispering about him when they thought he couldn't hear. What are they going to do about it? This is a secret government facility in rural Wales. HR probably doesn't even know it exists. The complaints process involves a form that's been out of print since 1987. You find an echo of a woman approaching him, concerned, telling him to put his respirator on. He's not wearing it. He should be wearing it. He doesn't put it on and he jumps her instead. So that's how it's going to be. You find another echo in a basement you access with a hammer. The same woman, tied up now. Isaac pacing, rambling, asking if she can hear it, asking questions that don't make sense because answers aren't meant for human ears. The kind of questions you ask when you've been staring at a cosmic horror too long and your brain has started making compromises. She's dead now. You find her body in the corner. Whatever Isaac was trying to make her hear, she didn't hear it in time. You find gasoline, dig up a cassette tape, power up the containment device, which it's quite weird that he uses cassettes, but Site C contained. 1 down, 2 to go. Back to the bunker, through a tunnel that smells like earth and age and things left alone too long. We use the keys we found in the grave earlier and it unlocks the way. It kinda smells like someone's nan's attic, but underground and probably significantly more cursed. Out onto a riverbank and beyond, a village, Hearth, Site B. It has all the parts of a village, houses lining streets, a pub, a hotel. The Pelican Inn, sign hanging in the breeze, creaking in a wind you can't feel. Front gardens with overgrown hedges spilling onto the path. The whole layout of a place where people lived. Jobs, routines, neighbors. They waved to in the morning and complained about in the evening. Past tense. Police roadblocks are everywhere. Tape stretched across the roads, faded and torn. Do not cross emboldened in authoritative text or something, I don't fucking know. The kind of official response that says, we tried and we failed, in equal measure. You walk through empty streets, dark windows, doors that haven't opened in years. A child's bike probably lying on its side in a front garden, rusted through. The milk is probably off by now. And you start seeing things. An old woman shuffling down the street, moving slow, hunched over, slippers scraping on the pavement. Standard Nan behavior. You turn to look properly, and she's gone. Was she ever there? Police officers at a roadblock, just standing there, uniforms too crisp, too clean for how long they've supposedly been here. You get closer and they just stare. The village doesn't feel empty though, it feels watched, full of things flickering in and out, like bad reception on a telly that should have been replaced in 2003. The Pelican Inn is locked. Obviously, nothing's ever easy. You take the FDMD out, you follow the static to an echo, 2 researchers walking towards the pub, carrying equipment, talking about containment like they're discussing what to have for lunch. The echo ends, door is open now, like it was waiting for you to see the right memory. Inside, dark, stale air. Something dripping from the ceiling onto a sparkling light fitting. Circuit breaker won't stay on, something shorting it. The dripping, probably. You find bolt cutters, pocket them, and head back outside. The FDMD leads you through the village to a van, gasoline pooled on the ground around it, rainbow sheen catching what little light there is. Another echo. The 2 researchers inside, sitting in the back, they're talking, relaxed almost. Then one tries the door. Locked, from the outside. Someone locked them in. They start to panic. They bang on the wall, shouting for help, trying to kick out the glass. Echo ends. Van's there now, rusted and old, but solid. Doors still locked from the outside after all this time. You cut through the lock. Metal screams. Doors swing open, and the bodies tumble out. Dried out, stiff, slumped against each other like they died holding onto the only other person who understood what was happening. They sat there in the dark, waiting for someone to come, waiting for help that never arrived. No one came. No one was left to come. They've got the keys, though. Keyring that spilled out when we opened the back door. You take them and move on. Back to the hotel, upstairs, numbered doors, peeling wallpaper. You unlock a door, find containment equipment, generators, monitors, a slot for the cassette tape, but still no power. You unlock another door opposite to this place, and you find out where the dripping's coming from. A man hanging from the ceiling, rope around his neck, body swaying slightly. Been there a while, long enough that the blood's pooled beneath him, dripping through the floorboards, seeped down onto the wiring below. He's the reason the power won't stay on. You cut him down. He's heavier than you expected. You lay him on the bed. It seemed like the right thing to do. Use the duvet to mop up the blood, floor walls, the gap between the floorboards. It's grim work, the kind of work that would be unthinkable anywhere else. The kind of thing you'd never imagine yourself doing. Yeah, it's just another task. Another obstacle between you and getting out. Back downstairs, circuit breaker. This time it holds. Power on, tape in, machine hums. Site B contained. 2 down, 1 to go. Site A, the last stop cafe. Back where this all started. The road does something strange here. You walk too far in one direction, and suddenly you're somewhere else, the other end of the road, like space folded in on itself. Like the place doesn't want you to leave, but also doesn't want you to stay. Schrodinger's commute. You walk with the FDMD out, static crackling. It leads you to a crashed van. Another one. The place is littered with them. Vehicles that didn't make it, people who tried to run and didn't get far. The echo starts. A woman inside the van panicking. All 3 sites have gone down. Containment's failed. Everything's falling apart. The other person doesn't seem to care. Dismissive. Calm in a way that doesn't quite fit the situation. She notices, you can hear it in her voice, the shift from panic to suspicion. Why isn't he worried? Why doesn't he care? The echo cuts out. Body on the ground next to the van. Female researcher. So the conversation didn't end well for her. What a shocker. Inside the van, you find what you need, a bloodstained cassette tape. You take it back to the cafe, swap out the battery for one you found in the hotel, and you slot the tape in. Site A contained, all 3 sites online. Back to the bunker, Helen's on the radio. You tell her it's done, all sites cleared, but the connection starts breaking up. Static, her voice cuts in and out, and then nothing. The line goes dead. Right, of course. Nothing ever simple. Nothing's ever job done, off you pop, have a nice life. It's always, actually there's one more thing, and that thing is significantly worse than everything that came before. One place left, the Echo Garden facility, the place where all of this started. Beyond the gate, a building, massive, industrial, surrounded by a chain link fence. The kind of place that says government project and we don't want you here in equal measure. The kind of place that definitely has asbestos and definitely doesn't have a good reason for existing. Helen's voice crackles over an intercom. She sounds relieved, tired. She tells you to come deeper, to keep going, that she's waiting. What else are you going to do at this point? You've come this far, you've seen the bodies, you've cut down a hanging man and mopped up his blood. Might as well see how far this rabbit hole goes. The facility is a maze of corridors and locked doors. Standard horror game busywork. The building feels wrong. Too quiet, too empty, too much like someone's waiting. You find corpses on gurneys, experimented on. For what purpose, the game doesn't say. The game thinks mystery is the same thing as storytelling, and sometimes it is. Sometimes you just want someone to explain what the fuck is going on. You find the keycard, use it to unlock the path to the elevator. The doors slide open, and you step inside. Press the button and descend. Down, deeper. The elevator rattles and groans like it hasn't been used in years. You wonder how far down this goes. You wonder what's waiting at the bottom. You wonder if Helen is even real or just another echo, another fragment, another trick this place is playing on you. The elevator stops, the door opens, and you find the children's rooms. What lies beyond is the most disturbing part of this entire thing. Before the entrance to the next chamber lie 4 doors, 3 of which are slightly ajar. Peering inside, you see small beds, small desks, drawing on the walls, toys scattered on the floor, dusty and faded, picture books. Children lived here. Children were kept here. The facility was running experiments, you knew that. The echoes told you that much. corpses on gurneys told you that. But seeing this makes it real in a way that the echoes didn't. Children were a part of this, children were test subjects, and suddenly you start thinking about some things. About Chris's age, about the facility being operational decades ago, about the fact that he grew up in Wales and left as a teenager and never came back, about the journal his father left him, about the things he doesn't remember but the facility seems to remember for him. And then you reach the final room, the Mindlink chamber. It's quite large, quite cavernous. The ceiling stretches up and the walls are lined with cables and conduit, all of them snaking towards the center of the room, towards the device. The Mindlink sits in the middle like an altar, metal and wire and glass, humming with residual power even after all of these years. Connected to it, embedded in it, is a chunk of rock, dark, jagged, wrong-looking somehow, like it doesn't belong in this dimension. The meteorite, the thing that fell from the sky, the thing that started everything. Chairs surround the device in a semicircle, medical chairs, the kind with padded restraints on the armrests and headrests, the kind designed to keep someone still while things are done to them, the kind you don't sit in by choice, and one of the chairs is occupied. A body, what's left of one, decayed beyond recognition, skin stretched over bones, clothes rotted through. Strapped in, still strapped in, after all this time. Whoever they were, they never got out. They died in that chair, connected to that machine, and no one came to free them. The black moss is everywhere. The mushroom stuff. It crawls up the walls, spreads across the floor, clustered around the base of the Mindlink like it's feeding on it. Pulsing, fairly luminescent. The whole room feels sick with it. And above it all, an observation room. Glass windows looking down into the chamber bathed in red light that isn't ominous at all. Standing in the observation room, silhouetted against the red glow, is Helen. She tells you to sit in the chair. Her voice is calm, reassuring almost. She says it's the only way to end this, the only way to sever the connection, the only way to be free. You look at the chair, you look at the restraints, you look at the corpse beside you, still strapped in, still waiting for a rescue that never came. Everything about this screams trap. Every instinct tells you to run, but you sit in the chair anyway, because at this point, what's the alternative? Walk back through the tunnels, past the bodies, past the echoes, past the village full of ghosts, back to the woods where something waits that won't let you leave? You're trapped either way. Might as well be trapped going forward. The restraints click shut, the machine hums, something connects to your temples, and your vision starts to blur, starts to fracture, everything goes dark. You're somewhere else. A void, black and endless. Nothing but darkness and the faint glow of that mushroom stuff, trailing ahead like breadcrumbs. You follow it. What else can you do? And then you hear voices, distorted, warped, but familiar. Your father's voice asking how you feel. And then your own voice, younger, a child.
I want to see Mom.
Your father says,
That's not possible. No, it isn't.
he tells you what he's doing here is very important, that
You're indispensable. Special.
I don't like it. It's scary.
You can't get better if you don't help.
I don't feel sick.
This is your home now.
he says.
I hate it.
You keep walking through the void, fragments of memory float past you. Your car, a picnic table, a table from the cafe. No, from your childhood home, you realize now. Coffee, a photograph of a man and a woman. Your father, Anira, your parents. Before everything fell apart. The voices continue. Your father getting more aggressive, complaining about your incessant whining. You pass the kitchen surfaces from the cafe. The same ones you saw at the start of the game. The sink's still full, the oars, the broken pier where the boat was. A field of crosses, graves, dozens of them, stretching out into the darkness. Your child self is getting more distressed. You can hear it in the voice. The fear, the confusion, the desperation of a kid who doesn't understand what's happening, only that it hurts and no one will make it stop. You come across the bunker door ajar and follow the path through. The police blockade floats in the darkness, the containment devices, trees surrounding you now, pressing in. A terminal appears ahead, and beyond it, a man, his back turned to you. You get closer. He turns, static. His face dissolves into noise, and he's gone. And in his place is the Mindlink machine. Clean, pristine, the way it looked before the decay set in, before the bodies, before everything went wrong. You approach the console, examine it. And then you grab the power cable and yank it out. The meteorite piece on the Mindlink detonates. Light, noise, everything goes white. You wake up. Black and white, the chamber again, but different, cleaner, newer, the way it looked years ago. A female scientist is leaning over you. She's talking to someone nearby. A doctor, you think. She says you're conscious, asks if you can hear her. You can. You don't respond. She tells the doctor that there's no verbal response, and then your father enters the room. The other doctor tells him you're stable, but progress has been slow. The woman suggests a rest period. Your father says it's disappointing. Run it again, he says. And that's when you understand. That's when all of it clicks into place. Chris wakes up. The chamber, the real one, decayed, ruined. The restraints have released and Helen is gone. He speaks not to anyone, just speaks, working through it, pulling the pieces together out loud, the way you do when you've just had several decades of repressed trauma forcibly uploaded into your conscious mind. He says he awoke to silence. His legs were tired, fumbling, like he'd been asleep for an age. But there was a stillness to the air, and as he walked, the memories came back. Years he spent with his father, locked in this facility. He'd lived this horror before, time and time again, like some kind of fever dream. His father was an honest man, he says, loved his career, but wasn't compassionate, not at all. But everything changed when his mother died. After her death, his father became obsessed with the village of Half, with the meteorite that fell from the stars. Chris thought he'd get to see her again, and she'd just return like she never left. Maybe they were both deluded, he says. His father said he was sick, and it was true. Chris could see things other people couldn't, things no 12-year-old should ever see. The echoes, the fragments, the dead speaking to the living through static and displacement. And his father used that, kept him in the facility permanently, strapped him to the machine over and over again, a twisted attempt to see his wife again, using his own son as a conduit, as a tool, as a means to an end. This is your home now. But then Chris met Helen, the only researcher who helped him, who got him out of the facility, to a foster family in the southwest, to a new life. His rock, he calls her. He talks about a feeling, a need to return to this place, something that's been pulling him back for years. The link still active, still connecting him to the facility even after all this time, but now it's gone. The business his father started here was severed when he ended the link. He can finally leave. We all can. Chris walks down the road, thumb out, hitchhiking. A Land Rover rolls down the hill, slows, stops. He gets in. The car drives through Hearth, and for the first time, the village is untouched, alive. A Royal Mail van delivering post, people on the streets, life, like nothing was ever wrong with this place. The music swells. Chris is finally free. Credits roll. But there is more than one way that this can end, although it's all largely the same. The ending you get depends on what you did at the very start, whether you got in your car or not. One of those choices you didn't realize was the choice at the time. If you got in the car and got run off the road, you get the survivor ending. Chris severs a link, walks out of the facility, and hitchhikes his way out of Half. A stranger in a Land Rover picks him up. The village is alive, people on the streets, Royal Mail van doing its rounds, and the nightmare is over. But there's something to that ending. Chris needed someone else to get him out. Helen freed him as a child, and a stranger drives him away now. He survived, yes, but he didn't do it alone. If you didn't get in the car at the start, just wandered off into the woods without it, you can get the salvation ending instead. Same basic beats, but Chris drives himself out. His car's still there, still works. He doesn't need the stranger, he doesn't need anyone. He's saving himself this time. Independence, self-determination. After a lifetime of being used by someone else, he finally has control. There's also the umbrella ending, which is a Resident Evil reference. In the final chamber, instead of sitting in the chair like Helen asks, you turn around and pull two levers by the door. The game ends differently, darker, less resolved. You seal your fate instead of severing the link. It's not a good ending, but it's there. Fuck off. But it's there if you want to feel bad about your choices. And then there's the foreshadow ending, the secret one. Find the modified loudspeaker hidden in Site C that I spoke about earlier, the one that works like a gun. Use it to shoot 3 ghosts scattered across the map in each of the sites, phantoms flickering at the edge of your vision, wandering the sites like lost tourists. Easy to miss, easy to ignore, they don't affect the main story at all, but if you get all 3, something changes. After the credits roll, a different location appears. Not Wales, somewhere cold, snow on the ground, mountains in the distance, a figure walking towards another facility, another site. Then nothing, cut to black. The implication is pretty clear. This isn't the only place. The Echo Garden facility isn't unique. There are other sites, other experiments, other children strapped to other machines in other parts of the world. Chris escaped his nightmare, sure, but the nightmare is bigger than him, bigger than Half, bigger than Wales. Chris got out, but not everyone will. And I think this is probably a nod to the developer's next game, which honestly looks pretty good. So, what is this game actually about? Strip away the meteorite, strip away the echoes and the containment sites and the secret endings, what's left? A child in a chair asking to see his mother, father saying no, run it again. That's the horror at the center of everything, not cosmic, not supernatural, human. Chris's father wasn't a monster in the traditional sense. He didn't cackle or scheme or twill a mustache. He was an honest man, Chris says, loved his career, just wasn't compassionate, not at all. He lost his wife and he couldn't accept it, couldn't let go, so he poured everything into his research, the facility, the equipment, the experiments, all of it designed to breach the barrier between the living and the dead, to reach her again. And he used his own son to do it. Not because he hated Chris, that might almost be easier to understand. He used Chris because Chris was useful, because Chris had abilities, because Chris was a means to an end. That's the thing about this kind of horror. It doesn't come from malice, it comes from absence, the absence of care, the absence of seeing someone as a person instead of a tool. Chris's father looked at his son and saw a component, a host, a way to get what he wanted. He told Chris he was sick, told him that this was his home now, told him he was special, indispensable. All the words that sound like love but aren't, because none of it was about Chris. It was about the research, about Anira, about the desperate, selfish need to undo a loss that can't be undone. Chris spent years in that facility, strapped to machines, perceiving things no child should see, and the whole time, his father was right there, present, attentive, but not caring, not seeing, not treating his son as anything other than equipment. That's the real terror of being completely alone. Not the empty roads, not the abandoned villages, not the fog sitting in valleys or the silence pressing down. Those are just settings, atmospheres, window dressing for something deeper. The real terror is being with someone who doesn't see you, being in a room full of people, and still being completely, utterly alone. Having a father who's right there, running the experiments, checking the readings, and never once asking if you're okay, never once caring about the answer. There's a moment in the Void sequence where Chris's child voice says, "I don't feel sick," and his father ignores it, doesn't even respond to it. Because it doesn't matter. Chris's feelings don't matter. Chris's experience don't matter. The only thing that matters is the research, the readings, the next test. It's not cruelty. Cruelty would require acknowledgement. This is something worse. This is being irrelevant in your own story, being a footnote in someone else's grief. Chris escaped, Helen got him out. He buried the memories, built a life, moved on, but the link was still there, pulling at him, calling him back. And when his father died, when the last thread connecting him to that place was severed, he had to go back, had to walk through the horror again, had to sit in the chair one more time before he could finally be free. The game understands something important about trauma. It doesn't stay in the past, it echoes and it repeats. It reaches up and pulls you back no matter how far you run. The only way out is through. You have to return to the place that broke you, you have to see it clearly, you have to sever the link yourself. No one can do it for you. Helen got Chris out of the facility, but she couldn't get him out of the trauma. That part he had to do himself. Decades later, walking through the same corridors, seeing the same echoes, sitting in the same chair. Chris did that. He unplugged the machine, he woke up, he walked out. The village was alive again and the fog was lifting, and for the first time in his life, nothing was pulling him back. Now, before we get to the end, here's the thing the game never fully explains. What actually happened versus what Chris was perceiving. The developer has confirmed a few key facts. Anira, the woman in the cafe at the start, was his mother. Not just some random waitress, his actual mother, who his father met during his time at the facility. She died when Chris was young. That's what drove his father's obsession in the first place. So when Chris sees Anira at the start of the game, offering him coffee, showing him the way, it's not a stranger, it's more of a memory, an echo. His mother bleeding through from the past into the present. The area around the Echo Garden facility in the village of Half exists in a fragmented state. Time doesn't work properly here. The echo Chris sees aren't just recordings, they're pieces of the past that have become unstuck. And because Chris spent so much time at the facility, because he was used as a conduit, he has a unique connection to all of it. He just doesn't see the echoes, he experiences them. Helen is real. She was a researcher at the facility who helped Chris escape as a child. When you hear her voice on the radio guiding you through the sights, that is her, but it's unclear whether you're talking to her in the present or hearing her from the past, maybe both. The game lets you sit with the uncertainty. The village of Half might not be empty at all, because in the ending, when Chris drives through, it's full of people. Life, normal. One interpretation is that the village was always fine and everything Chris experienced, the decay, the emptiness, the apparitions, was his perception, warped by the link to the facility. He wasn't seeing Half as it is, he was seeing it through the lens of his trauma. Or maybe severing the link actually fixed something, restored the village to what it should have been, the game doesn't say. The echoes, the ghosts, the woman on the ceiling, the figures in the village, all of it sits in a space between memory and reality. Chris isn't hallucinating, but he's not seeing the present either. He's seeing everything at once, past and present layered on top of each other, bleeding through, refusing to stay separate. That's what the FDMD does. It doesn't create the echoes, it just lets Chris tune into what's already there. What's always been there for him since he was a child strapped to a machine in the chamber. The horror isn't that something supernatural is happening. The horror is that Chris has been living with this his whole life, seeing things he shouldn't see, remembering things he was too young to understand, and only now, walking back through it as an adult, does he finally get to make sense of it and let it go. And I think the ambiguity is intentional. We're meant to draw our own conclusions. Personally, I think that it's sort of a mix of what actually happened and what's, he's just experiencing in his mind. Wales has a lot of roads that don't go anywhere. I said that at the beginning. Single track, grass up the middle, passing places for cars that never come. You can drive for miles out here without seeing another person, without any evidence that other people exist at all. Just hills and hedgerows and the growing suspicion that if something went wrong, no one would know. That's the feeling Chasing Static captures, the quiet dread of true isolation, the understanding that there are places in this world where you could disappear and it wouldn't matter, where the landscapes would swallow you whole and keep going like you were never there. Not the exact ones in the game, but ones like them. Late at night, signal gone, headlights catching nothing but fog and sheep, and the occasional sign telling you that the next village is 12 miles away. You start to feel it after a while. The emptiness, the sense that you've slipped out of the world somehow, that if you stopped the car and stepped out and screamed, the sound would just vanish, absorbed by the hills, noticed by nothing. That's scary enough on its own, but the game takes it further than geography. It understands that the worst kind of alone isn't about place, it's about people. It's about being with someone who should care and doesn't. It's about being seen as useful instead of loved. Chris spent his childhood in a facility full of researchers, scientists, his own father. He was never physically alone, but he was completely, devastatingly isolated, surrounded by people who saw a test subject instead of a child, a host instead of a son. That's the terror of being completely alone. Not that something might be watching, that nothing is. That you could scream and no one would come. That you could scream to see your mother and your father would just say run it again. Some places stay with you after you leave. Some kinds of alone don't go away just because you're not alone anymore. You carry them with you. They echo. They come back when you're tired or stressed or driving down a road that doesn't go anywhere at 2 a.m. wondering why you feel so far away from everything. But sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're strong, if someone like Helen reaches out a hand, you can sever the link, you can unplug the machine, you can walk out into the light and find that the world is still there, still turning, still full of people and life and Royal Mail vans doing their rounds. Chris is free now. The credits rolled, the music swelled. He's driving away from Hearth, away from the facility, away from the father who never loved him and the memories he spent decades trying to forget. The horror is over. But you're still thinking about those roads, the ones that don't go anywhere, the ones where no one would find you. You're still thinking about what it means to be completely alone. That's Chasing Static, and I need to go outside for a bit. Well, thank you so much for watching the video.
And thank you so much again to today's sponsor, ExpressVPN, for sponsoring the video. Check the link in the description to get an extra 4 months.
Honestly, it's been a while. By I think a month or something. I'm not sure. But hope you enjoyed. Ignore the phone going off. This video was, honestly, I would say it's a bit shorter, but I think it's going to end up being around the same. But I hope you enjoyed. It's a bit of a strange choice considering my last ones, but honestly, I think it kind of fit, and I like what I was doing. And honestly, it was an excuse to get some IRL stuff done, But yeah, hopefully next few months, as it sort of goes into spring and stuff, there should be a lot more videos. I don't actually know if I do, but it feels like I got seasonal depression because everything just is so hard to do. So sorry that videos haven't been as frequent, but they will. I promise. But as always, of course, thanks to the Patreons and the channel members. That of course being Flapjack, 8th Heretic, Vested Voice, Pewter Hailstorm, Will Provine, Rasulki Ryler, Ideen Loss, Keofer, Andrew Sherman, Shaddix, Ellie Kitty, Aroxano, A Brick Wall, Ash Crowing, Crit Croc, My Horror Project, Proxy, Sign Up King, Ministry of Defense, and Ice Bear Ray. Thank you all so much for the support, and if you want your name read out, blah blah blah, you all know the drill by now probably. But yeah, leave it down below what you want me to cover next. I think I have some maybe sponsored stuff coming up, and then I also got a few ideas of stuff I want to do. I'll just try my best to do it. I got fired from my job, so story for another time. Anyway, thanks all so much for watching, and bye-bye.